And if only one existed and I could keep only one, make it. Hey everyone, and welcome back on the channel. My name is Alex, and today we are comparing the Adidas Takumi Sen 8 against the Adidas Adios 6. Two shoes, fast shoes from Adidas in the Adizero lineup. The Adizero lineup being the race-oriented lineup at Adidas. Two shoes that will be competitors if you are looking for 5K, 10K, half marathon shoes. You will certainly come across these two. So let's have a battle. Let's check all the metrics, data, one word, and then trying to give them points as we always do here on the channel for the battles. If you're new on the channel, welcome. Don't hesitate to like the video at the end if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Let's dive in without no further ado. First of all, quite interestingly, as I mentioned in my first impression review of the Takumi Sen 8, I believe this shoe will suit better stride runners, and indeed in my tests I had a higher turnover with the Adios 6 and slightly lower cadence with the Takumi Sen 8. Not a big difference, 2 steps per minute, but still I think that's quite interesting. Ground contact time, so a proxy metric for responsiveness. It was lower on the Adios 6, so it's a bit more responsive, and I think it makes sense with my feelings. The Takumi Sen 8 is of course responsive, and ground contact times here are quite low, but yeah, I think that's interesting. Very interesting metric to have an idea of how efficient these shoes are is the power. And here there's a big difference between these two shoes. I think this may actually be the biggest difference in the whole comparison. We have 18 watts of difference at similar paces between these two shoes. The Takumi Sen 8 being 18 watts more efficient, so it means that you have to produce 18 watts less to move at the same pace, which is really a substantial difference. Don't forget that the Adios 6 doesn't have energy road, which certainly help for the efficiency. Also here on the Takumi Sen 8, the foam is entirely Lightstrike Pro, whereas here we have a combo of Lightstrike Pro and Lightstrike. This is a good segue to talk about durometer scores, and here we have 36 on the durometer scale for Lightstrike, regular Lightstrike on the Adios 6, and 28 for the Lightstrike Pro. Whereas here on the Takumi Sen 8, Lightstrike Pro comes a bit harder at 32 on the durometer scale, ranging from 0 to 100, 0 being super soft and 100 being quite hard. So that's how those two midsoles compare. Now, in terms of outsole, it appears that the Continental rubber here on the Adios 6 is quite firmer, quite harder than the outsole here on the Takumi Sen 8. Here we have something below 60 on the durometer scale, whereas here the Continental outsole comes at 71, I believe. You have the numbers on your screen. Then let's look at other data in here in terms of pure specs. Weight, we have 256 grams for the Adios 6 and 208 grams for the Takumi Sen 8, much lighter, 50 grams difference. Then in terms of stack height and drop, we have 33 in the heel, 27 in the forefoot on the Takumi Sen 8, 6 millimeters drop. Whereas here we have 19 in the forefoot, 27 in the heel, 8 millimeters drop on the Adios 6. Width of the platform, the two shoes are on the narrow side of things, but the main difference here will be in the forefoot, where the Adios 6 is much more narrow. There's a 7 millimeters difference, so almost 1 centimeter in less width on the Adios 6. And indeed the platform feels a bit less wide when running, so that makes sense. Now let's move on to the motion metrics here on the two shoes. So we're looking at shock being the metric representing the leg pounding, and so which shoe has the most leg pounding between the two. It appears to be, and it makes sense, the Adios 6. We have something about 12 G's of shock here on the Adios 6 against 10.5 on the Takumi Sen 8. I think, you know, one of the other difference here is that with the Takumi Sen you may go longer distances and have fresher legs, mostly because of that Light Strike Pro foam and of that increased efficiency which consumes less of your energy, less power from your resources to move at similar paces and to perform similar workouts or similar races. So that's very interesting. Then we will be looking at pronation and pronation velocity. As always in those battles, I mentioned that pronation is not a bad thing, so don't be worried if you pronate. It's a good defense mechanism put in place by your body. Now, interestingly, pronation is one thing and pronation velocity, so the speed at which you are pronating is another thing. And for pronation velocity, the higher, the more you have an injury risk, if you will. So here, the two shoes have quite high values. 20 degrees of pronation on the Adios 6, 25 on the Takumi Sen 8. So I'm pronating more with the Takumi Sen 8, and pronation velocity is also higher on the Takumi Sen 8. 820 degrees per second on the Takumi Sen 8 against 680 on the Adios 6. So injury risk would be a bit higher on this shoe because of the pronation, but here again it's something that we have to be cautious with because pronation is not a bad thing. Keep in mind also that the Takumi Sen 8 here is, I believe, half a size too big for me. This is my true to size in both shoes, but the Takumi Sen 8 fits quite wide and quite long. So I believe I have also some extra pronation within the shoe. So not only the sort of whole system pronation, but also the pronation within the shoe is higher on the Takumi Sen 8, which may be solved going half a size down, which I will certainly do and report back to you. Yeah, I think that's it for the metrics. Now let's describe the shoes with one word. I would say, and this is quite funny, I would go for the Adios 6, I would go with dialed in. The shoe feels really dialed in, and the Takumi Sen 8 feels nimble. That's how I would describe them, but this is tricky. So this is one word, this is a section that I like to do. So dialed in and nimble, these are the two words that I would pick. Now let's do the points and let's go through the different categories and give points to each shoe. Let's begin with the upper, and for the upper I would go with the Adios 6. Laces, they're not excellent on either of them, but they work a bit better again on the Adios 6. Fit, well, keeping in mind that this I believe is half a size too big for me, I would still go with the Adios 6 for the fit, especially here in the heel. It's working really, really nice. This is something way more, you know, on the minimalist side of things, so it's hard to compare them, but the fit on the Adios 6 works really, really well. Midsole, I will go with the Takumi Sen 8. Both are really good and serve different purposes, but I appreciate the ride of the Takumi Sen 8, and yeah, I feel like it's the midsole works better for me. Especially, you know, having that combo of Light Strike Pro and Energy Roads gives it a little extra thing. Again, it will depend on the application, but that's my take here. Outsole, I would pick most likely the outsole on the Takumi Sen 8. Just because of the durability. On the Adios 6, the outsole is grippy, fine, and so on, but it doesn't have the same durability because of those little protruding stripes, and those will wear out quite quickly, so I would tend to pick the Takumi Sen. Overall, which shoe has my preference, and this is really tricky because both are the type of shoes that I like. I would tend to, I would tend to say Adios 6 by a slight hair, but again, this would depend what for. For a race, Takumi Sen 8, no doubt. For a workout, I may hesitate between the two, and if only one existed and I could keep only one, I may keep the Adios 6. But you know, this is really like, and ask me tomorrow, the decision may be different. So yeah, quite tricky. I must admit, this is quite tricky, and this is maybe the closest battle that we've had here on the channel. So very interesting. Now, which shoe is best for what type of runner? Again, I believe cadence runner will be better off with the Adios 6, stride runners with the Takumi Sen 8. Heel strikers, I would tend to go with the Adios 6 as long as you are okay with a firmer landing, but the light strike here isn't crazy firm either, simply because it transitions better for me, at least from heel to toe, the Adios 6. Forefoot, midfoot, forefoot runners, especially at higher paces, Takumi Sen 8. Heavier runners, I would tend to go Adios 6 because of the added stability here in the heel and midfoot. Yeah, wide fit, Takumi Sen 8, no doubt. Lighter runner, you can go with either of the two. And now race distances, I frankly would not race with the Adios 6 simply because of the other great options out there on the market. Now, given the difference in price point, I may understand that some people would pick the Adios 6 as their race day shoe, and that would be perfectly fine for 5K, 10K, even maybe half marathon, but I would go with the Takumi Sen for race day. I hope this was helpful. I hope you learned something. Don't hesitate if you have questions about these two shoes, drop them in the comments. I will try to do my best and answer all of them. Enjoy your run today, enjoy your ride, go beyond your limits, and most importantly, take care. I'll see you tomorrow for another episode of the Advent Calendar. Bye bye.